good to see him. Before we get started, I would like to have all the new members who have joined since July to stand up at this time. If you're a new member who's joined since July, let's give them a big round of applause for coming and being a part of this group. Okay, thank you. Now let's take a moment to just get up and greet one another. Let's do that for just a brief moment.
Not enough people come over and say hi to you. Thank you. I really appreciate all you do.
Thank you, Patsy.
You really do a lot. I don't know what we would ever do if you're not here. In fact, what do we do if you're not here?
I try to get somebody to fill in for me.
Everybody can. I mean, let's be honest.
Yes.
All right, Fred Brown, would you come up and lead us in our invocation and the national, the Pledge of Allegiance, national anthem? Fred Brown? Where are you, Fred? Past President Fred Brown. Come and lead us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Park Cities here. Are there any concerns that you would like to share with us before we pray? Anybody? Anybody? Here? Oh, here, yes. Yes. Very good. Thank you for sharing that with us, Matt. Sam Miller passed away a couple of weeks ago. Was a member of this club for over 50 years. And during that, I think 55 years, as I remember, I don't see it here, but 55 years, he's had perfect attendance this whole 55 years. So, he was here every week, I think, and then did some other events along the way. But his funeral will be, Preston Powell Presbyterian Church on Walnut Street. That's next Wednesday at 1:30. So if you can join us for that, if you would just bow your heads and join me in prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here today as members of the Rotary Club of Park Cities, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to our fellow citizens and to our community. Accept our thanks for this day and all its blessings, its opportunities and its challenges. Guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to Rotary, to our community, and to our country. May each of us in our daily routine come to know the joy of caring and sharing with others, not as fortunate as we are, but as continue to strive to make a better world. Today we ask a special blessing for our shared concerns and for those mindful thoughts that are in our hearts but not spoken. Bless our fellowship today and bless the food prepared for us, to the nourishment of our bodies and us to your service. It is in your holy name we pray. Amen. And now, if you place your hand over your heart and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have no idea what that is. All right, anthem.
Now our national anthem.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, and you may be seated. I want to call on Richard, if you wouldn't mind coming and helping us with the Happy Bucks. If anyone has something they'd like to tell us about that you're happy about, all you have to do is put a couple of dollars in this box, and you can say what you'd like to say that you're happy about. Anyone would like to do that? Well, Karen, right over here.
I am super happy to tell the story. I'll try to tell this quickly. I have a cousin who was in World War II. His plane went down, and we thought it was in Germany, and this would have been 80 years ago. They just found him within the past couple months. They found his plane. He wasn't in Germany. It went down off the Baltic, off the coast of Denmark. And so he still had his boots on. He was in his parachute and everything. So they're flying his body home, and he'll be buried with the rest of his family. 80 years ago.
Wow, that is amazing. Herb has something he's happy about.
I am happy because Casey Lambert is back with us from her mission trip to Africa and is joining us again.
We're real happy about that, Casey. Well, be back with us. Someone else.
Richard.
Mark has something.
So I wasn't sure whether to say this in the prayers and concerns or the happy bucks, but big changes at the NEACE household. We decided to put our house on the market. Lived there 22 years. So if you know anybody that wants a great property in East Dallas, send them my way.
All right, thanks. Thank you. Good to be there. All right. Anyone else? Now the introduction of guests. Richard, if you would help us with that too.
Thank you, Richard. Where's Dan? There you are. I may have found something to be taller than you, Dan. I'm trying to encourage Ian to come to us. As you can learn in a second, he's come all the way from Fort Worth. that's going to be a tall order. But I'm happy to introduce to all of you Ian Biggs. Ian is the managing director of the Bank Group, their mergers and acquisition firm. I've got to know him through my professional network. As I mentioned before, so that means he's a TCU grad. I'm also honored to tell you that he's a former U.S. Marine. He served as a sergeant of aviation communication systems. And last, but I'm sure most importantly, he has 3 lovely children, Taylor, Ivan, and Islam. Welcome.
So I just had the opportunity to meet Kelly Walling. This is her 3rd visit. I think that kind of means she's thinking about joining. So she with LSS Coaching, and please welcome Kelly.
Welcome, Kelly.
I just met this gentleman. His name is Faze. This is his 2nd visit, and so we welcome him. Faze, do you want to tell him what company?
Sure. I'm with Contour Roofing, and that's who I've been with for a while.
Thank you. Thanks, glad you're here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have with me today Jeannie Delphinas. As some of you would remember, her husband Charles Delphinas was a member here for many years until he passed. She is a neighbor of mine, and we both are here to support our other neighbor, Bob, our speaker for today.
Welcome. My guest. Let me introduce my guest. This is Terry Tyler. You know, I forgot my wife one time, so don't take that against, hold that against me. Well, anyway, this is Terry Tyler. He is a former IBM executive, and he is visiting with us for the first time today. So welcome, Terry. I think that covers the base. Glad everyone is here today. I'm going to call on Eric Harrison, if you would come up at this time and talk to us about the marketplace advertising for the day.
Thank you, President Nolan. Good afternoon, everyone. Our marketplace advertiser, I haven't seen him if he's here today. But
He's in New Mexico,
He's in New Mexico. He is not here. Our marketplace advertiser is Jason Graves. Jason is a dedicated realtor with Howie Beth Allman and Associates, specializing not in New Mexico, but in the greater Dallas area, with a commitment to providing a stress-free, say that real fast, stress-free real estate experience. Jason works alongside the experienced Hook the Toe Scott Group, a team with over 20 years in the industry. His background as a doctor of pharmacy adds a unique layer of precision and client care to his work. Known for delivering exceptional service, Jason takes pride in guiding clients seamlessly through the buying and selling process, whether they're purchasing their first home, selling a long-loved property, or making the move to Texas. Please join me in thanking Jason Graves, our marketplace advertiser, for tonight.
Thank you, Eric. That's a unique combination. I guess he can medicate his clients as they look for a home. Sometimes we need that when we're looking for a house, Mark. Yeah, levitates them good. Yeah, whatever. I want to call past President Jeff Sheehan to come up here at this time. I have a presentation I would like to make to him. Jeff was president last year and did a fantastic job. He really did. And this is a bound copy of all of the hubs for the year that you were president. And this you can place on your shelf and point to it as a book that you authored. You can do that. So Jeff, I know, really. Well, please receive this as a gift and appreciation for your great work. Would you like to say something?
It was a pleasure. I highly recommend it.
All right. Thanks. He did a great job. I appreciate him so much. Pat Martin, would you come up at this time?
Hi, y'all. Just to make another announcement. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the publisher of Park Cities and Preston Hollow People, the newspapers that I laid on your table. And RCPC partners with us on our 20 under 40 program. That's where we recognize 20 individuals in our community that are doing great things both professionally and for the community. So we're going to show just a quick video from last year's event, just so you guys can get a flavor if you haven't seen it. And thank you to those of you that have bought tickets already. I will be sending out another notice on Club Runner to let you know that you can buy tickets. And then I also want to thank Miss Garcia, Elise Garcia, and is Mark Casher here? Yes. So they both helped. Part of the partnership is that they serve on the selection committee. So we open the nominations up to all of our readers and ask them to nominate somebody that they know. And then we have a selection committee that's made up of some of our editors, myself, and two folks from RCPC, which helps us to sort of round out, so we're not too biased about who we pick. And anyway, so we really appreciate their time. They spent a good amount of time combing over the many nominations that we received, and it was a challenge to narrow it down because we've got a lot of great people doing a lot of great things in this community. So anyway, quick video.
Walking on it, the golden touch. Yeah, decide who is gonna be. When you step outside, you gotta make them like this.
Recognized our very own Jeff Brady, who emceed, and he has agreed to do it again this year. So anyway, we'd love to have you at the event. Again, I'll send out the invitation through Club Runner. And we are coming up on our deadline for advertising. If any of you all have businesses and are interested in supporting this effort, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pat. Appreciate it. Mark Deeks, come on up here.
So some of you, just making aware of things that are going on at the district level in our Rotary district. We do have coming up on April the 5th, it's called Club Leadership Training Assembly. This is for mainly our incoming president-elect, incoming board members, team leaders, but I wanted to make the club aware of it as well so that you know that this type of training programs and things are available for any Rotarian in our district. So even if you are not part of the incoming leadership team of the club, but you may be interested in certain areas, there are going to be breakout sessions. I'm leading a breakout session on public image. There will be one for secretary, for treasurer, for foundation, and then there's a keynote speaker, and then there's also a full session on the foundation presented by past District Governor Bill Dindy, where he talks about all the different mechanisms that are available for people through investments and things like that to be able to contribute to the Rotary International Foundation, and a lot of really cool details about that. So if you're interested, even if you're not incoming leadership of the team, it's next Saturday, April the 5th, Dallas College, Richland campus. There's plenty of information on the district website. I can give you information as well if you're interested in going. It's only $15 for registration, includes a continental breakfast. So hope to see you there.
Thank you, Mark. The other announcement we've already made about Sam Miller's memorial service next Wednesday, the 26th at 1:30 at Preston Hollow Presbyterian Church on Walnut Hill Lane in Dallas. So if you have time to be there, I'm going to be there. I hope that you can show up to support Sam's family. He was a wonderful man and a very committed Rotarian. Now we have the raffle drawing, and Van Oliver. Now we ought to get Mr. Biggs to stand up right here next to him to see who's taller. Anyway, we'll forgo that.
He's younger, he's taller, and he's better looking.
Don't go there.
But you're smart. This is a raffle. We, for those that haven't been here before, usually we sell tickets and then we have drawings from our speaker of the day. The winning ticket, it comes up, and the second winning ticket is you have to select the ace of spades from this. And there's been some question recently, but whether there really is an ace of spades. And John Brown confirmed that. He urged me also to make sure that we had a couple extra. But we just have one this day. All right. Here we are.
Let me have the.
And there's $1,650.
Okay, good. Now, whoever, if they pick the ace of spades, they get half of that $1,650. So $825 would go to you. Thank you. And the winning ticket is, here's the last four numbers, 2608. 2608. Richard, all right. Let's give Richard a hand. I need the cards too there. No, I can't. Give them goodbye. That is not the right card. All right. Rich Stanford, now, you haven't looked at any of these cards before now, right? Okay, all right. Pick out the card that you like. Oh, so close. The King of Spades.
Wow.
But he is the king in spades. So Richard, sorry that you lost, but you have a good card to take home with you, so that's good. The chair of the day is Jack Carpenter, and I want to call on him at this time to introduce our speaker. Jack?
Nolan told me not to use it. Hello, everybody. I've got two things to hold, so it's going to be interesting how to judge. But anyways, we're in for a real treat today. I'm really pleased and honored to introduce you to our speakers today, Dr. Robert Barnes. But let me talk to you a little bit about Bob before I ask him to come up here. I met Bob when I attended Richard Stanford's event at his old condominium tower near Turtle Creek Boulevard in late 2023. I thought Bob was outside of Richard's meeting room, because I saw him at the end of the hallway, and he was promoting this book, Shadow. I said, I like the book, and I like the guy. So I walked up to him and started chatting. I thought he was Richard's speaker. And here we're talking, chatting, and Richard comes down the hall and said, Jack, we're over here. We're over here. Well, Bob and I had such a great talk. I said, I want to get to know this guy better. So we followed up and met. And later, he and his beautiful wife, Charlotte, and my beautiful wife, Patty, and I had lunch with him and Charlotte. So we really appreciate one another. And I said, I'd like to read this book, Shadow, which you're going to learn more about today. So, because of that, I thought it'd be good if we all get the chance to get to meet Bob today. So let me read you his biography. Dr. Robert Barner has over 40 years of experience as both a corporate leadership development executive and a leadership coach. He is also a professor emeritus. I always want to say emeritus. Emeritus with SMU's Cox School of Business, which is my school, Cox 93, and the School of Education and Human Development, and has presented at a variety of international conferences. Dr. Varner is the author of 10 books on coaching and leadership development that have been translated into several languages. Shadow is his debut novel. I asked him to talk also about Shadow with you today, and he said he would. Now, he also asked me to write a review on this book, and it was submitted to Amazon, so I thought you might like to hear my review. Bob certainly did. Shadow is a bold mind-bender of a tale, like Stanley Kubrick's Star Child and his sci-fi 2001 A Space Odyssey. Bob Varner's Bobby takes the reader on a journey that is profoundly sincere and complex, with an 8 principles call to action for all earthlings, for all times. Fasten your mind belt. It's going to be a mind-blowing ride. Now I say to all of you, fasten your seatbelt. For Bob's mind-blowing talk, have a little fun. Bob?
How are we doing, everyone? Okay? Well, I'm going to talk about 2 things today. You see Bootstrap up there, which is the other book that I have, and Shadow. And the interesting thing is that these books, I think, represent the 2 sides of my brain. I was in business for 40 years before I started migrating into academia. So United Technologies, Choice Hotels International, Accredo Health, Medco, and Biotech. I went through 8 different industry sectors. And I did a lot of executive coaching, I did a lot of consulting, hence a book, Bootstrap, which is the first time I've written on this particular subject. And the subject is, how do you become your own coach? What is the best way of approaching that? So I'm going to talk about that. And the other book that I have, Shadow, as Jack said, is my debut novel. And that's the kind of creative part of my brain, which is pushing out there extremely fast. I just turned 73 a few months ago, and I'm amazed that this is the most generative part of my life in terms of writing. I'm producing a huge amount of writing right now. It's exciting. So I thought I'd give you a little explanation of why I wrote these things, because when you understand what motivates an author, you feel a little bit more connected to it. And then I want to give you a little something to take away from this. So let's, oh, and by the way, I'll have these available for sale, but I don't make a habit of selling these on street corners, so I don't have a way of processing credit cards. It's $15 for either book, and that's cash or a check. I'll be over there afterwards. Now, if you don't have cash and you don't have a check, but you're interested in the book, I also have a 2-page flyer, which will give you some information on the book, show you how to pick it up on Amazon, and give you a couple of reviews. And I have my business cards if you want to talk about it. So let's talk about Bootstrap. The approach I took to this is the approach I take in coaching, which is the Socratic approach. Socrates was once asked, "What are you? Who are you?" And he said, "I am the gadfly of Athens," because he went around stinging people with provocative questions that forced them to think. People think that coaches are the people who have all sorts of motivational rah-rah answers, and that's not what coaches do. Not what good coaches do. Good coaches pull people off from their hectic day at work so that they can think a little bit more deeply and self-reflect on what got them there and what they need to move on. That's what coaches do. That's what I do. I ask the right question in the right situation. It makes a person sit back and say, "You're right, I haven't thought about that." So I said, I want to put 10 questions together and then process it on that. I'm going to give you 2 of these questions together, which I call the bookends, because it's the first question and the last question in the series of 10. And armed with that, I'm going to give you a little technique that you can take away in the room. So the first question, which is the obvious question, is what are you coaching? Now, as you listen to that, I want you to think about what your personal development goal is for this year. That could be you want to go into business, you want to grow your network, you want to grow your brand, you want to build a new skill, something like that. Everybody got that in mind? Okay, now we're going to do something. We're going to flip it with what I call the Nolan technique. When King Arthur was a little boy, he asked Merlin, he said, "Why are you so wise?" And Merlin said, "It's because I think differently than other people, because I was born differently. I was born old in the future, and I'm walking backwards through time. And I see things that you haven't come to yet." The Merlin technique is to take the goal you have, any goal in life, project it in the future, and write it down as if it's already happened. Not I'm going to, not I want to, not I'm motivated, not I promise myself, but it's already done. So if you were coaching with me, one of the things I might do is say, take out your resume. We're going to go to March 26th. What do you want on there that's not there right now? If that's your bio, if that's your LinkedIn profile, what do you want on there that's not there right now? And then you and I would back up and we'd say, what are the knowledge, the skills, information gaps, experience gaps that we have to close to get there? And then we back up one more time and say, what are the first step actions to close those gaps? Now you say, well, Bob, this sounds really good, but I'm not in a 5,000 person organization. I run my own little agency, my own little business. Fine, change it. Twist it around with something called working backwards. There's a small company you may have heard of that uses this. It's called Amazon. Years ago, Jeff Bezos was really frustrated with product and service development at Amazon because people were suffering from death by PowerPoint. Click, 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 and nothing was getting done. He said, we're going to do something different. You got a new product, a service idea, you write a press release 2 years in the future and get me excited about why I care about the new product or service. You have to also include an FAQ, a frequently asked questions area. How is it going to affect our brand? What's the price point? What does it do to our product line? How does it affect operations? So you could go home tonight if you wanted to. Take a look at your agency or your business and ask yourself, what is your press release for March 2026? If it's not clear, you haven't got a well-developed goal. But it's written as if it's already done. That's the Merlin technique. Now let's go to the other extreme, my other bookend. How do you sustain change? Anyone here ever join a gym at some point in your life? Okay. What does it look like in January?
Grim for me.
Grim. Anybody ever notice how many people are in there the first 2 weeks of January? All right? If you're a gym rat, you're patient because you know by March or April it will naturally thin out. All those wonderful, yes, today I'm gonna, wipe off 20 years of my age and become stronger, more fit. And then it's, the gym bag's so far away. So by April, things go away. The hardest thing about making personal change is never initiating. The hardest thing is sustaining change over time. Now, I run coaching. I do 6-month and 12-month contracts. So we come up to the 6-month contract. I spend the last session on one thing. I said, we're going to spend 90 minutes talking about what happens when I take the training wheels off the bike and I go away. How are you going to sustain this by yourself? Today, I'm going to give you 3 techniques for doing that. First 2 are called naturally occurring events and electronic prompting. They're very simple, but if you're a consultant and you have fancy names, you make more money. So I always try to wrap fancy names around simple things. So here's the way this works. I have a client by the name of Bill. Not his name, but that's what we use. Now, Bill has a problem. Bill is incredibly smart, capable, technically able, charismatic, and well-loved by his team. So you can see that he has a problem. He doesn't have a problem. But he comes to me in coaching, and I said, why are you here? He said, Bob, I can't get people in my group who are all smart people to generate ideas. I said, well, why don't you tell me how you run a team? Me. And he does. I said, okay, I got it. We're going to try something different. So we did 4 things. Now, here's what's going to happen. I said, let's go to naturally occurring events, because people think that self-development is something you do apart from your work, from your business, from anything. I said, no, you grind it in. So I look on my calendar for the next situation that's coming up that gives you an opportunity to build skills. So Bill says, Wednesday, 2 o'clock, we have a staff meeting, like something very different to occur. I said, okay. Now we're going to go to electronic prompting. You will set an alarm on here with the nastiest sound you can think of, so you can't ignore it, for 1:45. I said, Bill, here's what that's going to say. It's going to say, remember. And underneath that, and again, we've been talking about this for an hour and a half. The first one is pass the marker. Because Bill has a habit of going up and going to the whiteboard and controlling everything. And people sit back past it. Give it to somebody and say, Nolan, you know this area, why don't you take over and lead the discussion? Second thing is hold back on your criticism, your commentary, because he has a habit, he thinks so fast of critiquing ideas as soon as they're presented, and people shut up, they just shut down. Because if the smartest person in the room has an issue, it can't be a good idea. I said the third thing is confirm before you speak. So at the very end, take notes. And you're going to be chopping out the gate to want to say what you want, but don't do that. Turn and say, here's what I've heard so far. Boom, 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 boom. Get the heads nodded. Last thing is, then give your idea. Now, why 15 minutes ahead of time? Because if it's 30 minutes, something will come up. A text, an email, a phone call, a walk-in that knocks his head sideways. So no matter what good things I do in coaching, he goes back the next week like this and says, God, I had a perfect opportunity and I blew it. It wasn't that he was motivated. It wasn't that he didn't care. It was that it was not top of mind. You and I have ingrained behavioral habits that work against us. So you can use those 2 techniques. The third technique you use is getting an accountability partner. I don't run anymore because of my knees, but I used to run a lot. There was a time in my early life where I never ran. Couldn't do it, couldn't get the discipline. But I had a friend who was running marathons. He said, Bob, all you have to do is get dressed and show up at the front door. I will knock, we'll go. He said, as we ran, don't worry about your breathing, don't worry about anything, just keep pace with me. An accountability partner is someone who holds your feet to the fire by keeping pace with you. Your accountability partner could be in this room. All it requires is a verbal agreement, a handshake. You're going to meet with each other once a week or once every other week for 30 minutes. It can be by phone, it can be by Zoom, it doesn't mean you have to be personal. And you're going to say, here's what I pledged to do the last time we talked, and here's what I'm doing. Here's what I said I was going to do, here's what I'm doing. And your friend pushes you. So those 3 things, naturally occurring events, electronic prompts, accountability partners are the way to sustain change. That is what we're looking for this morning. I enjoyed this. I really had fun writing it. But I turned to my wife, and as I said, I've written 10 books, and I've had a wonderful opportunity to see them go around the world in different ways. I'd never written a novel, and I promised myself I was going to do it, and I said, there's one book I've always wanted to write. And that's this thing. And there were 3 reasons for that. The first is the main character. When I was a little boy, I knew what heroes looked like, and I had a massive stack of comic books. That was my life. And the archetype of all superheroes is Superman. So, you know, the steroid character that walks like this, fancy underwear, can melt things with his eyeballs, flies, impervious to harm. I said, you know, heroes come in all shapes and sizes. Why can't there be a different kind of hero? My hero is little Bobby Haynes. He's 9 years old, he's frail, he's painfully withdrawn, he has trouble communicating. And people in his little town, because he lives in a little small southern town that's kind of fallen off the map, they don't really like him, they don't really understand him, they don't trust him. But Bobby has a secret. It's a secret they don't know, it's a secret none of his parents know. And that is, Bobby was born a powerful telepath. And when someone leans over you as you're a baby and says, what a cute little boy, and your mind is saying, what a little freak, which message do you hear if they're both as loud? What do you do in that situation when you get conflicting information and you can't understand why the smile never matches the eyes? You withdraw, you pull in. But Bobby gets past that. So I hear people saying, how did you come up with Bobby? And I say, in a sense, I was Bobby. I had thick glasses. I was a frail little kid. I got shoved into first grade from an isolated area of Pennsylvania where I had no elementary school, very little contact with other kids, and I was painfully withdrawn. I stumbled all the way through school. And I talked to my mom about this when I was an adult, and she goes, well, yeah, I can understand that. She goes, you do know that when you were a little boy, and everybody else was talking in complete sentences, you hadn't said the words, so we took you to the doctor to find out what was wrong. Was I on the autism scale? Did I get emotional or cerebral? I don't know. All I know is I was sucked into a void, and in the classroom, I tried to make the smallest possible target, sitting in the back and praying that no one would see me. Why couldn't I make a hero who comes out and moves past those kinds of difficulties to become something more unexpected? The second thing about Bobby, and I'm not giving away too much in the book, is I would say early in the book he dies, but that would be incorrect. Early in the book his body vanishes. But in the last seconds before that happens, Bobby does something he's only done one time before, and that is with his little dog. He projects his consciousness into another living person, which happens to be the one boy he's friends with across the street. And the boy never knows he's there. And from then on, Bobby exists as a shadow. He sees things through the minds of other people. And every time he learns something, Bobby learns one thing very quickly. His first impressions are often wrong. He judges people without understanding them. I created that scenario because it concerns me and it bothers me that we live in the most divisive time and period that I've ever seen. I love my country. I see myself as patriotic. And it bothers me that we are so divisive. And I said, and maybe it's naive, but if I can create a character who can see past superficial differences to what's underneath, maybe people will start thinking about the commonality we have, and that the commonality we have in humanity is better than those things that divide us. And the third thing about shadow is the context. It's 20 years in the future, and believe it or not, the environment is not in good shape. Some data points. Since 1970, we've lost 30% of our bird population in the U.S. and Canada. Since 2000, we've lost 25% of our butterflies in the U.S. In 2022, there was this weird thing happening in Bering Sea off the coast of Alaska. Crabs got missing. They ended up dead. Not 1,000, not 100,000, 19 billion crabs. And so scientists took them out and dissected them and found out what was wrong. The water got so warm. Crabs, whose metabolism is based on the water temperature, thought it was summer all year round, and they literally starved to death. Anybody who was fisher folk at that point investing in crabbing had a very bad year. So there were a lot of examples, but those are the big three. I know a lot of people, when I mention that, they say, well, look, I'm a business person, I don't buy it. And I say, well, there's one other thing we can think about. I always say, if you're a city, follow the money. The most conservative people in business, next to nuclear power plant managers, are probably people who manage and own, run, and work in insurance companies. And that makes sense because you're constantly looking at potential risks against insurance premiums, potential risks against, and you're pulling out of California, pulling out of Houston, pulling out of Miami to the point where some people have to move. Some people moving away from Miami now because of insurance. They can't get insurance. I told this to a friend the other day, and he said, why do you care? You're 73. 20 years from now, you won't be around. I said, my grandkids will. And I think I owe them something a little better than that. So Bobby stops and says, I have abilities that nobody else has had. Maybe I have a responsibility that nobody else has either. And decides what he's going to do. So that's it, folks. I'll take questions in just a minute. But I want to let you know that that's the story of my 2 books. There is one last thing I'll say. Oftentimes when I tell people I'm a writer, they'll say, well, I've always had an idea about writing, but it's too late. If I can write my first novel at 72, I don't want to get any garbage from anyone in this room about it being too late. So I have my business cards over there. If you're seriously interested and you're going to write an idea, I promise you I'll have at least one good conversation with you to help you jumpstart that idea, okay? So I'll take questions. Yeah, and I want to thank you all for inviting me up here. I know your time's precious. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
So what's your, I don't know, like your method, like your schedule? Do you get up early in the morning and write, or do you have
After midnight, when everyone's gone to bed, I mutate into the form of a writer. Fortunately, no one sees this transformation.
What I do, one of the things I do in coaching is I ask people, what are your peak hours? Your peak hours are the 2 hours a day when you feel invincible. Okay? And most of the time, we're doing things like reading email, garbage like that. Your peak hours can leverage anything you do. My peak hours used to be like 9 to noon, and now I get up at 5 or 6 o'clock. And the first thing I do is grab coffee in the morning. And if I'm feeling really creative, I move into story production. If I'm feeling less creative, I get later. That's my. Someone asked Hemingway. They said, "What is the secret to writing?" And Hemingway said, 500 words a day.
Hi, Bob. You talked about, the scientists and everything, you're concerned about the environment. I ran for politics, and one thing I noticed is that leaders, for some reason, especially in public service and government, we don't tend to go to the right experts. But we don't listen to people who have the expertise in government to solve the problem. It's oftentimes people are based on the political background or whether they're a lawyer or business, and they don't listen to people who have that kind of. Why is that?
Oh, this is a big philosophical question. I personally think that in all areas, what we are doing is something very destructive, and that is we are looking for information sources that confirm our pre-existing beliefs. There are 635,000 members of the Flat Earth Society around the globe. Do you know how they keep in touch? By satellite, which is a little ball that goes around Earth. Duh. But because they have 600,000 members, they can wear tin hats because there are other tin hat people there. And I think that this hiding off is a very weird and destructive process. I think people are just uncomfortable with uncomfortable truth. That's a general thing. So I don't know the answer to that. I know that things work well at a local level. I live in Turtle Creek area, across the street in this beautiful little park called Rivershawn. We try to protect it. Once a year we do cleanup. I'm there, my grubbies, a lot of people from our towers. And you know what? There are all these blue-shirted people from Rotary there, helping us plant trees, helping us plant plants, carrying muck over the things. That's a pretty cool thing. And when Jack invited me here, that was top of my mind, that working at the local level can be powerful. Other questions? I answer all questions of philosophy. This is a fountain of truth and wisdom.
Well, I'm going to do what a lot of people do when they have a rider, and it's all about the process and why did you do it all. But I have noticed, like Larry Ride or Stephen Harrigan, some of the great Texas authors, historians, seem to want to write novels. I mean, I keep waiting for them to write a non-fiction history, and they'll write a novel. Obviously, I think in Explain Bobby, you try to say, well, what do you think? Why do you want to write a novel instead of a non-fiction piece?
It sells. It sells. So I think people are more captivated with the story with data. And the wonderful thing about a novel is you can bring a historical period to life. You can personalize it. You can bring it down into something people can connect with. And I think it's that human story that captivates the reader and connects them to a time period.
Bob, I'm going to ask you the question I haven't asked you yet, so I'm going to ask it now. What casts a shadow? What's your next book?
In the last year, I've written 3 novels, and I'm working on a 4th. I have not tried to push them to a publisher because I'm having too much fun writing, and I don't want to do the messy, horrible, nasty stuff with marketing, so I know I'm going to have to get out there and do it. So I'm just going to keep writing. I'm just going to keep writing until I can no longer function or whatever. To me, there's something magical about world building. And every novel that I have takes place in a different world setting, either current or future, hypothetical or actual. One is a young adult novel about kids with superpowers. One is an adult fantasy thing about a guy who's an IT geek who stumbles into magic. And a series on that. And now I'm doing something that deals with a combination of brain-computer interface, AI, and brain transplants. And I thought it was so far ahead of the curve. And the other day, there's a brand new computer interface with AI, with the human brain that's being used for ALS patients. The main character of my new novel is ALS patient. I can't keep ahead of the science in my science fiction. Hey guys, I think that's it. Thank you so much for your time. I'll be over here with my books. And again, if you don't want to get the book, but you want to take a flyer, and you're interested, please feel free to do that, and I'll answer any questions on the way. Thank you.
Before you sit down, there's a book that is going to be placed in your name and your honor at the Jack Lowe Senior Elementary School, and just for your coming here today. And it might not be your book, but it'll be a book that the child can read and understand.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Next week, Tom Rhodes will be our chair of the day, and he is going to be introducing us to Jared White, who is with the Dallas Park and Recreation Department. So we'll be hearing about that next week. I want to call on past President Pam Carvey to come and lead us in the 4-way test. Let's all stand.
Of the things we think, say, or say, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Have a card or something?